Hi, guys, and welcome to the AliDoisWin Podcast. Tonight, I think I have my most special guest ever.
Who?
Yet. um,
When are they going to get here?
I think soon. Dr. Charlie Weingroff.
Oh, now I'm a
How
doctor.
are you? Aren't you, doctor?
It's PTs don't say that. Maybe they should. I don't know, but I don't go by that. I think the most that I've ever used doctor is like if there's something wrong with the hotel the second or third time, then
Mm.
yeah, this is Dr. Weingroff in 301. Maybe that works, but I don't know.
So, yeah, it's Charlie Weingroff, aka my husband,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as of when?
Oh, that's interesting. Now we're married
Yeah.
because you don't you like to tell people we're not married.
Because we haven't had our wedding yet. We've had to move it 3 times.
Whatever. Anyway.
Okay, I love you.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to bring Charlie on today because he's been on a million podcasts, and a lot of the times he's talking about strength and conditioning, performance coaching, rehab stuff, your brand, training equals rehab, which is trademarked. And basically, just had to throw that in there.
I don't think people care because they use it anyway,
Yeah,
and
so I heard.
they use it anyway. They define it how they want to, and apparently, if you think training is the same as rehab, you don't know either. So I guess I'm an idiot. Yeah,
Are you done?
that one was disappointing because that was somebody who I know. I really enjoy his company. We have worked together with Olympian athletes, so I don't think he was coming at me, but
Mm.
it's disappointing because whether he was and I really don't think he was. I don't think that individual has a mean bone in his body. I think if he knew, he doesn't even register to him that was something that would be attributed to me. So anyway, it's the way it goes.
Okay. So for those listening who have no idea what you're talking about, what happened?
What do you mean? I don't want
So
to.
somebody used the term training equals rehab without
So
your permission.
well, look, no one needs my permission. I mean, the trademark is really for train equals rehab and T equals R. So there's two separate trademarks, and you basically can't, have a fitness or rehab related product or business
Mhm.
that, I mean, no one owns words. So it's not like people aren't allowed to say training equals rehab. I think it would be somewhat reasonable to give people credit, such as if I said, something that is attributed to a certain company, brand, person, etc. But the one that I was just referring to, I don't know how, different things make the rounds every so often, every whether it's few weeks, months, years. So somebody had said that what I had just said before, if you think training and rehab are the same, you don't know either of them. You don't know anything about either of them.
Mhm.
And again, while the likelihood that person that tweeted that was directly looking to throw stones at me,
Mhm.
highly unlikely, but people don't think that. People see
Right.
it because train equals rehab is not words that I own. It's not words that anybody owns. It's not word. I'm not even the first people to ever use them as it relates to something fitness, rehab, or training related. But most people would attribute them to my brand, and
Yeah.
and that's
You
where,
associate it with you.
yeah. So that's
So perfect segue into the fact that um, some people, there are a lot of people out there who know you're a physical therapist by trade. And then there's also a lot of people who have no idea you're a physical therapist by trade.
that I have found that. I don't remember the year, but no, it was the opposite. They thought I was a physical therapist and didn't know I had anything to do with coaching. And it was probably, early in the travel stuff. So it was maybe 2011, 2012. There was there was a study or several studies that came out of, I want to say, some of the folks that were at Appalachian State.
Mm.
And basically, the suggestion was that you don't need to do core training. You should just squat and this and that. And something as it related to the glute ham raise. And these are all things that I would be very favorable to. And I had said something, and then they, this was never, of course, in person, and they're like, they it was attributed to me, and the commentary was like, yeah, that's a physical therapist, whatever. And I think, maybe a year and a half before, I had squatted 800 pounds. So
It kind of knows
I'm pretty,
something.
I'm pretty sure they kept quiet at that point. Not that that's a very meaningful thing in the grand scheme of things, but they had attributed, they tried to discredit my position on those topics as I'm just a lame physical therapist that uses yellow rubber bands and a trampoline to throw a ball to.
And a Pikachu kettlebell.
And that too. Well, I don't even know if they would. I wonder if
Well,
even nowadays, if commercial physical therapy outfits even have kettlebells of any kind. So
I think that's where the people get that stigma from, because I've worked in environments where there's been a lot of physical therapists, and the general, I guess, stereotype is that PTs don't lift. So they're
true,
very over
true,
careful, and
true.
maybe, when the industry swung into the overly corrective side of things.
I don't think they're overly careful. I don't think they're overly corrected. I don't think they know if they. I don't think they possess information. Here's something to consider. If you work in fitness, there's a percentage of those people that have engaged in fitness themselves, or even more so become have been a competitive athlete at some point in their life.
Yeah.
And if you're a competitive athlete at some point in your life, you understand that you have to get really, really out of breath and really, really fatigued and really, really strained so you can improve your chances to win the game. If you work in strength and conditioning, 98% of people that work in strength and conditioning have an athletic mindset because they were athletes themselves. In physical therapy, it's like whatever the number, like cut it in half. I mean, you can be a very, very good physical therapist. Remember, there's physical therapists that have nothing to do with working with orthopedics or sports injuries. There's all sorts of those folks, and that is the basis of the education, and that's where the jobs are. But the jobs are in orthopedic commercial outfits. And if you've never been an athlete, or you don't understand that it's okay, or you don't like it yourself, you could probably, go to a commercial physical therapy outfit in whatever suburban, wherever, and you're a high school, athlete that had ACL injury, and you're going to wind up working with someone that has never engaged in an athletic endeavor in their life. That's very, very reasonable. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know, then you're going to think that that's what physical therapy is. And on the flip side, it's important to say that there's a lot of people that are the opposite, people that are very athletic and very strong and understand enough about at least general fitness. I'm not sure there's a lot of physical therapists that understand athletic development, which I do think is different, but that's just what it is. Commercial physical therapy is just it's the fast food of healthcare, and you can make a lot of money in fast food, and that's okay. But to not admit it, I think is a little bit frustrating. And I'll tell you point blank, as you know, we invited him to our wedding. That's how good of a friend this particular individual is, and he owns like 30 or 40 commercial physical therapy outfits, and it's hard for me to even spend a few minutes in one of these places, but this is still a friend that I respect and one of the most savvy and intelligent business people that I know. He's a terrible physical therapist. His physical therapists that work for him are terrible. And you know what? He probably doesn't care that I say that, because he has a great business, and you should be able to say those things. Now, he's probably upset if he hears this, but that's whatever. I mean, for him to never, ever in 25 years, ever ask me to be involved in any kind of project with his physical therapy outfits is probably says that he's okay with what he's doing, and I'm okay with it too.
I think it's because it's funny, because it's similar to like when I have to explain to people why they don't have to use insurance to go see a doctor such as Dr. Eric, whom we work with. And it's very similar when, referring people to you. I always have the disclaimer that I've been referring people to you since before we even started dating. And I explain that you are the guy that people see when everything else doesn't work, and then you make it work. And then people pretty much, you would say what, 99% of the time have success when they've seen you, when they haven't had success when they have seen other people.
There is some truth to what you're saying, but not
I know
with,
you have humility.
not well. Look, it's not 99%, and I'm not the only person that uh, people seek when other stuff doesn't work. So that's okay. I don't need to be the only person, because there's enough to go.
Okay.
There's enough to go around.
Give yourself more credit.
And the reality is, there's there have been people that I have seen that I have not been able to do anything with. I feel terrible. I remember someone flew in from Toronto to see me, and I remember he had some type of oral facial pain, and 60 minutes later he was no better, and I felt miserable. And I don't remember if I charged him or not. I want to say I didn't, because I felt so bad, because he's somebody who believed what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody is that talented. Nobody is that nobody bats 1,000. It's what I do and what a lot of others do is different than the condescending description of what I call commercial physical therapy. And I don't think that charging insurance is where the line is drawn, but most people, look, you can suck and not charge insurance and charge, a lot of money. That's allowed. But and you could also be really, really good and take insurance, or at least be out of network.
Mm-hmm.
So 99%, we're not going with that.
Well,
we're not going with that.
We appreciate your humility, and I think that the people close to you know how humble and that you can be. And, despite sometimes the public perception, when you hashtag best in the world, they think you're talking about yourself.
It's CM Punk's.
Not everyone knows wrestling, just like me. Even though I'm married to you, you still talk to me about wrestling references. I have no idea what you're talking about. But even I didn't know. I'm like, so best in the world. Like that is the perception, though, of you publicly, that you are the best physical therapist in the world. And they have told you this. And I don't care what you say, because I know individuals who are listening to this who will agree with me. And you can say whatever you want. But you do have a very good track record figuring out stuff that people have not been able to figure out.
I don't suck.
I'm not letting, yeah.
I don't suck.
Thank you.
And there's a lot of people that get very excited to speak bad about me. So that probably means I don't suck.
What do you think the biggest perception of you that is completely wrong that's out there? Besides you being angry. as I wear the Red Lantern hoodie, which you had no idea that's what fuels anger fuels the Red Lantern. So when he's angry, like, you used to be even way more cryptic on social media than you are now. So like when he gets cryptic like that, it's usually a private joke, or he's referencing something that's actually funny. But people are intimidated because you say things.
That's what I hate. That's it. That's it.
Because they don't want to say something stupid, or they have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
If there was something that I wish people didn't think, if indeed this is true, because I've made a lot of mistakes, and if somebody were to say this or that about me, I would be man enough to say, yeah, I fucked that one up. But I get very frustrated when people think I'm intimidating, and I don't know why. Like I'm wearing a look. I'm gonna look the way I look. I cannot do anything about my mom's Eastern European genetics, but I post, and I'm more excited to talk about Disney and comic books and Pokemon than anything that may make me appear that I know things that other people don't know. Because the reality is I don't know anything that anyone doesn't know. And if you don't know it yet, I'm happy to just tell you it, and then you can decide for yourself. So I really don't like if people say I'm intimidating. Of course, people will say some negative things about me, but they're usually people. Well, here's a story, as you know, and most people close may know, but a lot of people don't know Sam Gibbs. Sam Gibbs is going to be my best man in the wedding whenever it happens. And Sam and I were in the NBA around the same time. Ironically, when Sam moved on from Toronto, the second time he was with the Raptors, he was replaced by Keith, which is just ironic that two of my very, very best friends, kind of.
Do you think they'll listen to this?
No, probably
Yeah,
not.
Probably not.
And Sam just chooses not to engage in a public persona, despite being one of the probably the in my mind the best, even though he's not a physical therapist, orthopedic rehab. He's an osteopath, which is kind of like a physical therapist for all 10 systems of the body. I don't really even know. Like, it's easy to just say manual therapist, but so he came to a conference where Art Horn was still doing these conferences at Northeastern. And I believe I keynoted 4 times, but one of the times was the entire staff of Canada basketball, because we had started to show some notoriety. I think we were rolling into to the summer of 2015, which was supposed to be the real coming out party of Canada basketball at the international level. And we just talked about what we did, and Jay Triano was, he came. Like, I don't think you're ever going to find an elite sport at a sports conference. Maybe at a leadership conference you may find a head coach, but our head coach, who at the time was an assistant, Jay, was a head coach of the Raptors at one point, and won a division. He won the Atlantic Division with the Raptors. He presented, and it was me, Sam, Meehan, Bubs, all of our staff. Roman talked about the research that we published with Omegawave. And Sam had his own talk. I had my own talk because Art, had us there. And, I would never take any more money from him for how he put me up on the stage like that many, many years in Boston. So Sam comes up to me. He's like, obviously there's a lot of people that are talking to me and et cetera. He's like, do you know all these people? And I'm like, they know me. and then later in the conference, I said, all right, man. So now this is the first time you've seen me in this setting, where a lot of people know of me, and I'm not going to say more than that. And I said, why do you think people hate me so much? He's like, oh, that's easy. Like, he's like, it's obvious now, especially. And Sam is very sagacious. He's not older than us, but he's a very important friend, and one of my best friends. And he says, like, number one, anybody who would say bad things about you doesn't know you. They have taken what they hear and chosen that it makes them uncomfortable. So they hate you. And that's just how anybody, I mean, there's websites like IHateScarlettJohansson.com. I mean, there's it's just how it goes when people are forced to consume what you do. He said the other thing is, like, you are so good at presenting your information at a level that it is so incontrovertible that you don't give anybody a chance to say anything back. It's not that you're not letting them verbalize, but you present things in such a way, and you only choose topics that you can do this with because it's what you believe in, it's what you're passionate about, that you figuratively push people into a corner, and the only thing they have is to lash back and try to diminish you rather than accept your approach. And that's like a little bit backhanded, because I don't know that it's completely positive, but I think that's, at least that's what someone else said, and something that I'm willing to repeat. So that's whatever it is.
So I think it's important because people, like, when you talk about Canada, and I posted that picture of you that Jackie Campbell posted also.
I don't even know who took that picture. I don't know who took that picture.
But what do you do for them? Like, what's your history with them? People don't know your role with them.
They should know your role.
Know your role. What is your role? Like, what do you do for them? Because you don't do physical therapy with them.
No. I have 2 titles technically. I am the director of physical performance, which is really supposed to be like a non-operations position. It's supposed to be like a you're like a guardian, like you sit in an office and just look down upon everything, and you craft the strategy for anything physically related, and linking what we do from a general level, but also special and specific. So what everything that we do from a fitness level, and also using data to advise further fitness decisions, but also load management. And so these are all of my responsibilities from the national team for, excuse me, all the NBA guys that are with us, and then all the way down to the little kids that are, as young as 7 and 8 years old. Um, with that, as we mentioned, the NBA guys, if or the top European players that are not in the NBA, but at that talent level for the senior team, that is their option to utilize, what we do. So because of the lockdown and certain things that happened over the last 12 months, more of our top players accessed what we would do with some of the other folks that I would manage in Canada basketball from a strength and conditioning level. My other title is probably more conventional for the senior national team, the studs. I'm the head strength coach. So that now, obviously, I'm a physical therapist, which we talked about. But when we have like a big setup, let's say we're in Toronto, so our entire staff is there. The kids have to double up and triple up in the room, and I have always, I'd just put 2 beds in my room or whatever, so more of our staff can be a part of our camps. When everybody is there, I'm at best, I'm the third medical provider. So if guys are getting work done with manual therapy, and if there's an injury, but that doesn't really happen very often for a number of reasons. But Sam is our number one medical, and he is my boss. He is the head of our entire high performance program, which is formally called the IST, Integrated Support Team. Jason Meehan his title, I believe, is athletic therapist for the senior national team. So if we only have 2 tables, then those 2 guys are doing the work. Now, if Sam has something else to do, then I'll jump in. But as I said, when we're at home and everybody's there, when I say the kids, it's only because they're not necessarily young. They're handling the kids. So Christian Vargas is the head athletic therapist, because in Canada they're called athletic therapists. He has the U19s, and Mary Lancelet, and then we have interns and we have volunteers, and there's no reason for Sam and I to monopolize working with these guys in favor of the opportunities for these younger, less experienced therapists and coaches to develop. And it's not important for us to control everything because we have such great people. And when we talk about Canada basketball, I am way more excited to talk about our social systems and processes that I'm largely responsible for articulating. I think it's okay to say Sam is the CEO and I'm like the COO. I'm the architect of a lot of what we have put together since I showed up in 2011. So because a lot of people do think, because of my public choices and messages, that I'm in charge of Canada basketball, and that's false. Sam is in charge. I can do nothing without him. But because he is a great leader, and a lot of what I have put to paper and presented in terms of social systems and processes, it's because he has allowed it, and he embodied that, giving me opportunities and not like micromanaging. And he describes it. His job is to just run interference for the rest of us. And it is interesting over the last couple years, as I have probably changed my social outlook, we have changed our role. I've heard Sam curse, which is not a common thing. I have seen him get way more upset than me. After certain group discussions, I'm the one that talks to everybody else to calm everybody down, whereas it used to be me. Unfortunately, I do think I have a chip on my shoulder, as I'm still the American, that the arrogant or loudmouth American. And but that's what I do for Canada basketball.
And having been not witness, but like hearing you guys when you talk and the banter that goes on in your group text messages, it seems to be a camaraderie that you don't find in professional sports in the US.
Very true. And it's one thing for us to present that stuff and talk about it, and it's cool, but the what is, we have different barriers than, or different challenges than what are typical in professional sport, not only in North America but everywhere. So I'm the only one that wasn't an intern in Canada basketball at some point. So I think when you live a certain culture, it's so easy that you just do it. Like you don't have to up train. We don't have to up train anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And now that we're fairly accomplished in terms of a program, and we're resourced as a program, we can bring in more interns, we can bring in more volunteers, and they experience the culture, so that when we do have opportunities for them to be paid and have a more substantial role, they they don't know any other way how to do things. Now that being said, none of us in Canada basketball is our primary job. None of us are getting paid to the point that that's our main source of income. So uh when you look at professional sports, because this international senior team and professional sports, they're both elite sports, but this isn't pro sports. Players get paid a little bit, and different countries pay their players a little bit differently, but it's all just a token when you're talking about NBA players. The that's their job, and if you have a good paying job, especially if you're an athletic trainer in the United States, where the average salary is about 45,000, and you're making 180 or 220, you're going to act in a certain way. And I don't think there are too many teams. The NBA has a couple, but in football, I don't think there's any. In soccer, there's certainly several, because I think at a global level, soccer has shown more of an affinity to a high performance program, and the titles are even different. So, so you see that there. Hockey probably has a couple. Now, just because they have something in place where there's one person that's in charge of medical fitness and science, and has a link to the front office and has a link to the coaching staff, that doesn't mean they hire good people. But if you take a system and you bring in a bunch of mediocre people, they're still going to be mediocre plus. Now, in situations where that doesn't happen, you just bring a bunch of people together, or they don't make medical and fitness work together. They don't science. The coach doesn't care what the science says. The front office is not involved in any of this stuff. It's just a cluster. And what we have demonstrated, we went backwards a little bit when Nick took over, because he's new and he doesn't, it's 1 year. It's now 3-4 years from now, if we're still in the same boat, then it's a little bit interesting, and probably not a situation I'd be excited to be a part of. But with 10 years, with Jay as our head coach and Rowan as the GM de facto, we have been able to bring, like, everyone is in on this, and everyone can talk to everybody, and nobody's worried. If the intern wants to talk to the head coach, it's not like, oh, what is he saying? What is he saying? And even in my time in the NBA, it was like that, where it's just not this cohesive workplace, because everybody's just trying to get a new contract and keep what they have, and it's just a different type of environment. And I don't even think that there's that many international, certainly U.S. men's and women's soccer, absolutely. But in basketball, most of the time, it's just it's not a 12-month program like what we're doing, and that's okay. Like, I'm not saying what we're doing is what everyone else should do, but that's what we think we should do. and I think the proudest thing is not only of the success, like Mary Lancelet just finished osteopath, and that's 7 years. So that is we just don't have that in America. DO is a little bit different. We've had I believe I've written no less than 5 physical therapy recommendations for our staff members, and or some recommendation of some type, and everybody that wants to go to physical therapy school gets in when I write the letter. And
take note, anyone.
But also we started to look at in a very high sense of bravado, I asked Cohen McDonald, who was our lead analyst, sports scientist, whatever you want to call him, and I said, I want to, if I wanted to say that the most prolific, like where is the epicenter of developing young elite basketball players in the world? Where would it be? Well, a lot of people are going to think New York City. You're going to think LA. You're going to think Washington. You're going to think Chicago, etc. And he did it. He found the data that was all public available, and then we controlled the narrative. So this isn't hard science, but he then of all we use Division I American basketball as the standard of an elite basketball player, and where do they come from? And he then looked at the entire rosters of every Division I basketball team, and then for those that were from Canada, he then carved out the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, which is not just Toronto. So when you say New York, it's not just New York City proper. If you're maybe even as far south as where I grew up in Toms River, I don't know if that would actually be considered New York City. So once we got to that level 3 years ago, I don't know what the numbers are this year because I'm sure they're staggering this year, but 3 years ago, the number one city represented in NCAA Division I basketball was the city of Chicago with 92 players. The second most and again, like, we used a radius of Chicago, but we used it. So if somebody wants to argue with the radius, then you win. I don't know. I'm not going to argue with you.
There'll always be one.
Toronto had 88. Oh, well, we finished second. Well, Chicago has 3 million more people than Toronto. And furthermore, there is no dedicated organization in the city of Chicago or any American city because Canada Basketball is based out of Toronto. We certainly expect ourselves to have a national reach. But look, the bottom line is that most basketball players live in the Greater Toronto area. They're from Ontario. There's more there's more happening all the time in Quebec and other cities. The CIS, the collegiate basketball, like their version of the NCAA, like Calgary is very, very good year in and year out. So we tried to make that number. We attempted to do it. So I don't know this year, but 2 years ago, I think we were tied with Chicago for 90. And I don't know what it is this year, but I'm sure Cohen is knocking it down. What is also very important to recognize is that we are the only city that has an upward trend over the last several years. So every year we have more players per capita. And Chicago, which seems to be around the top, every other city is all over the place. So some they're high, some teams are low. That means there's not an upward trend. So those are some things that I'm incredibly proud of. And I think by this time, that's why I didn't want to use the NBA players. For a long time, Canada has had the most NBA players not from America.
Yeah, people don't know that. They don't realize that.
Well, that's been a while, but now it's like no one's even close in terms of the third, whatever the third country is. Brazil, Argentina, Serbia, a lot of those players come and go, so their numbers change. So I didn't want to use NBA because if somebody were to say, well, Tristan Thompson would have been in the NBA without it, and we don't really look at Tristan's development as a product of Canada basketball. He is a big reason. Him and Corey Joseph were the first two young-ish players, and now there's clearly veterans in the NBA. They were the first breakout guys that went to Texas. Tristan, I believe, was a one and done, or he only went for 2 years. But my point is that if you were to say that those guys would be in the NBA, whether there was this institution that developed that existed to develop the game of basketball in the country of Canada, then I wouldn't argue with you. I've seen Corey Joseph hit a home run in Sky Dome. There's no doubt in my mind that Andrew Wiggins would be an elite level track star if he wasn't in the NBA. There's no doubt of these things. But let's talk about Division I basketball, where these are still the elite basketball players on earth, and a lot of them will never collect a dollar playing as a professional. So let's use that. The numbers will be grand enough to be able to make some interesting suggestions, if not statements. And I'm just most proud of that because that number is going to continue, and there's going to continue to be multiple lottery picks. They're still coming every year. So here's some names. If you follow basketball, Caleb Houston, which I believe he has. Where did he commit to? But the one that you should all be excited about is our baby Shaq. So we had I think it was Enoch and Enoch's going to Michigan State. Maybe prefer he not go there, but that's the way it goes. Caleb, I think, is going to Michigan, maybe. And anyway, the Enoch at the age of 16, I believe, was 6'9", 260 pounds. And like high school was like out for 2 weeks. It's called like reading week or something in Canada. I don't know what the hell they call it. So him and Josh Primo, who is at the University of Alabama, also potentially, if not a lottery pick, probably between end of lottery and pick 20 next year, should he choose to come out. The list is endless. And then you have a 16-year-old by the name of Elijah Fisher, who is probably top 3 in his draft class at the moment. They keep coming, and they're going to keep coming, because our program is not just lifting weights and using intelligent fitness strategies. Everything that we do with our technical coaching and nutrition and how we communicate to the parents is all linked together. And that's what I'm most proud of, because if I walked away tomorrow, that's still there. And because I am who I am, it pains me that's where like no other people like don't want this, because the other thing to be that would be of maybe some interest. I don't know what the numbers are anymore, but there was a point where Keith D'Amelio, who is still a consultant with us, but he was around more when we only convened once or twice a year. Now that we convene 4 or 5 times a year, he doesn't come as much, because it's not worth it to bring in our consultants when we only are together for maybe 4 days in Toronto, and then we go somewhere else to play our games, because our windows are very similar to global soccer. So between him, Sam, and myself, I think over a 3 to 4 year period, we interviewed 6 times for what would be Sam's role, a director role with an NBA team. I'll speak for myself. I'm not going to say the team, because it doesn't matter. I think most people would be surprised if they knew the team. At one stage of the interview process, they said, "Charlie, are you sure you want to come back to the NBA? You have a really good thing going with Canada basketball." And I'm like, why do you I'm on the phone already. Like, I'm already doing, I mean, it was, but because they knew that what we want to do and what would draw us away from the roles that we have is a level of commitment and a level of just trust that pro sports teams are not ready to make, because no one's really doing it. And it would also probably require, to a degree, a level of human resources control. And it's just the way it is. It's maybe hard for general sports fans to understand. You can deep six a player that's making 21 million, but you won't deep six a strength coach making 150. You have to keep him, on his remaining 2 years. So that's what I do with Canada basketball. How about that? That's your question.
I like that.
I'm glad you do. That's good. That's good. I mean, you like that.
No, I love the story, and I love hearing you talk about it. I don't think enough people hear the backstory or the other side. I will say, funny story, not this year, but the year before. So every year, a client that we now share, that I think I started training maybe 12 years ago, is one of the owners of the Celtics, and we get his courtside seats. So 2 years ago.
You've already outed him. It doesn't matter if you say his name now.
No, it's your Canadian accent's coming out. Anyway, so 2 years ago, we brought Mike Boyle and his wife, Cindy. And so we go down to the court, and I'm laughing because I'm like, everyone who sees us check in here on Facebook, I am the last person they're going to think got these tickets. Yeah. And so all of a sudden we walk into the court, and Charlie is like the mayor. Hey, what's up? C Wagon, what's going on? Chuck Wagon.
Did you get a picture with Kelly?
No, you did.
Okay.
You did.
Wow.
And Kelly comes out, and Kelly's how tall?
Kelly Olynyk on the Miami, because the Celtics were playing the Heat that time. and Kelly is a legit 7 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the only time you feel short is when you see the photo, right? Like
Yeah.
among
Yeah,
those guys,
yeah.
you don't even feel how
Oh
tall.
yeah,
How
like
tall are you? People need to know. They think you're taller than
as measured in the San Antonio Spurs
you.
training facility, I am 5'4.5".
Yeah, and when you're next to a guy who's 7 foot tall or more, sometimes that it doesn't even phase you though because you like I see how they respect you and you command their attention and just like it was awesome to watch. Just to sit back and watch how you probably knew more people than the people whose tickets we had.
I was most disappointed that I didn't know any of the referees because coming up through the minor leagues, there's a lot. The referees would develop, be in the
Yeah.
well, at that time it's called the D League. Even before that, it was called the CBA, and I was in the IBL, and even in the USBL, which was a kind of like what would be Double A, because it was in the tri-state area. That's where I met Zach Zarba. And if anybody knows NBA, Zach Zarba is like the matinee idol, this Gucci looking dude who and with slick hair from Brooklyn. And a lot of us came up together. And when you're the trainer, you have some responsibilities with the referees. I remember Eli Rowe, who I don't believe is in the NBA anymore. He when at his the first time I saw him in the NBA, I went up behind him and almost gave him a German suplex. I was so excited to see him because Eli's like my height, but I could probably suplex a lot of people that are taller than me. But
who was the guy that wasn't playing for? Was it this year we went with Kevin Carr and Ariel, who had the white T-shirt, and you were making fun of him
about an NBA player wearing a white T-shirt? What is this, like 7 years ago? So Shea Gilgeous-Alexander did not play. He warmed up, but he didn't play. So on Oklahoma, the Canadians that are Shea, who's obviously a stud, and Lugens Dort, who I don't have a lot of touch points with, just by how players come up and when they're with us. He was with us once at a camp in Toronto, but other than that, I don't know. I don't deal with him too much.
The camp where?
In Toronto.
Where?
Toronto.
No, and the Canadian accent comes out. And
when
you're away,
I kind of do it all the time.
When you FaceTime me when you're away with them, it's even like worse. When you guys went to Nova Scotia, like that was there's crazy.
But even if I come back from, if I like in February when I come back from Puerto Rico, I'm gonna come back talking broken English because there I'm gonna talk Spanish the whole time.
Are you the only one fluent in Spanish on the team?
Because I can talk. I'm sure other guys, there's players that play in Spain, but I think from being able to talk at an environmental level, like I could, they can't do what I do.
Flashback, like I think it was like 2018 Perform Better Orlando, and someone asked a question and they had to translate. And this is like when we had Q&A and somebody would ask all the speakers and we were all on this, on the stage or whatever, and people would ask questions. And someone was asking and someone was trying to translate Carlos Felix, who from Brazil. And Charlie's like, hand me the mic. And I'm like, all right, go, give it to Charlie.
No, I think I remember I set that up because you knew what I was like, hey, watch this. And Kevin Carr, I think, was sitting next to us. He knew what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And I started to, and then people started, I answered the question in Spanish.
But no one knew you were that fluent in Spanish that you could.
Why would you know? That's like, remember, I'm an intimidating asshole. Why would you know anything about?
But I like when we go to Disney in the Uber and you speak Spanish like fluently to them. Then they enjoy
because it's. Well, I'm not of the thought process that they should speak English. I mean, I don't understand that.
But it's almost like you're a friendly person.
Well, I think it's hard for them to, they because I think they're in the service industry. They want to serve us. They certainly would appreciate a tip. If you can make them more comfortable, the whole experience is going to be better.
Yeah.
So it's and Orlando is much more eclectic in the Spanish speaking folks. When you get to Fort Lauderdale and Miami is rough because then you're going to get a lot of Dominican and Cuban and even Boricua, and that's sometimes it's very hard to understand. I describe Dominican Spanish as like English in Kentucky or so. It's rough. It's rough.
It's fast too.
Redondo por la boca. I mean, ball. You got marbles in your mouth.
So this is a good segue to some of the other professional teams that you also do consulting with. And so I don't think people really realize, like, there's so many dimensions to what you actually do, that when people ask, what do you do? Like when we're together and they ask what you do,
I hate it.
You look at me, you're like, you answer. And then you're like, I'm a consultant, which has nothing to do with physical therapy. But then they look at me and I'm just like, I don't even know what to say. So what exactly does that mean? Because you do,
I don't know.
You consult with pretty much every major sports organization, right?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, to me, a consultant is somebody that you get paid to do like a finite amount of work, and you're not necessarily vested into the overall success of that business, other than maybe getting another consulting gig.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably have a lot more security, but maybe you're not on the plane, all the time. I don't think, like, am I a consultant for? So I work for players privately. So when you hear about, XYZ spends this much amount of money a year on a therapist, on a coach, etc. There's multiple players that I'm that guy. Some of the names,
we'll go to that.
Some of the names that I've mentioned, we have like a consortium of different people that we work with a lot of players as a group, and try to mimic maybe some of the things that we do in Canada basketball at just for an individual player, and that's just their decision. And I don't know if that's a consultant or not.
No, but like with the Cardinals.
Yeah. So if a team
Wizards.
If a team, see, like, I don't say the names. I don't want this, but
George, edit that.
Yeah, like if a team is interested in a short or defined amount of time or project, then there's a negotiation or an offer, and I work for the team and I do what they ask me to do, and then I'm done. And I guess that's what a consultant does.
But you enjoy that.
Well, look, I've said this before publicly. There's not a day goes by that I don't regret whatever I did when I was younger to somehow not have an opportunity to be a full-time in professional sports. And every year something cool almost happens, but for whether it's because of what I need to do that, or what an organization is willing to provide, it doesn't happen, XYZ. But you get paid. You usually get paid well for the amount of time that you work. You can do other things, because if you're going to work for a team, I don't know that we're even doing this podcast, because they would probably be some concern for disclosing sensitive information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like talking about the teams. I think most people know a lot of the big time players that I work with, but if you don't know me, you would not know that. And we keep it that way. There's one particular player that I have never taken a picture with, and the first picture I plan to take with him is when he makes the Hall of Fame. That's
you refer to him as
I'll give you this much, the big giant dude. I think the one of the benefits of whether you work privately outside of a team is there's a different level of security to that opportunity. Mm-hmm. Whereas in pro sports, you are hired to get fired. There's no other way around it. I don't care who you are hired to get fired. And that's okay. You might get fired 30 years later, depending how you play your cards. But ultimately, for me to be able to work with people, like, and have offices, we're about to, have a fourth or a fifth office, in between, Florida and New York, et cetera, in this area. To be able to do all these different things. And I fill that void for me with Canada basketball, because what that fills me with is my opportunity to demonstrate that I can do certain things, and all those other opportunities give me a better opportunity with Canada basketball because I don't require a significant amount of financial compensation. I do get paid, but if I didn't get paid, I'm not sure it would really affect our life because you usually at those types of levels, the hometown discount to work with the national team. Well, I remember the first time, and I remember Kevin Pangos was sitting right in front of me. Kevin is a EuroLeague player, probably one of the best point guards to not be in the NBA at this point. And I said, we were at Nike having training camp. It was kind of the first time I had, you know, I had some role in Canada basketball. I was there before, and then blah blah blah. That's how we got to Nike. And I said, I'm not from your fucking country. I'm just here to win. So I'm the Merc. But yeah, and it's so I don't know. Consulting is. I think it's a term that's used a lot in pro sport for people that basically aren't full time
Right.
with the team.
So, and we've talked about this, like with the surge in social media and how there's a lot of people that claim to work with professional athletes, and you never talk about it. And I think that you were saying like the people that work the most with them don't have to tell everybody and remind them of that. But there's obviously certain things you can't disclose. But I guess what I'm saying is like, why do people try to do that?
We'll do what?
Like claim that they're working with people, yet they don't.
Oh,
What is it like?
well, look.
Like
So
that?
social media is like when you all go off to college, so you're all your boys from high school, and
Use
and
AIM.
and then when you come back for like fall break or winter break, and you tell all your boys about all the conquests and cool stuff that you did when you were in college, there's really no way to verify these stories. So if you say you work in pro sports all the time, first of all, if you don't have a paycheck that has the logo of a team on it, you don't work in pro sports at any level. You might work with professional athletes, which a lot of people do, and that's cool. People will ask me like, "Oh, do you like working with professional athletes?" I mean, I like working with people that pay me. I'll tell you point blank. Like the client who's now probably a mentor and a friend that you mentioned earlier with one of the owners of the Celtics, people like that, I probably work more with individuals at that level and make more money
Yeah.
from working with men and women at that level rather than professional athletes. It's cool to be around superheroes. It's cool to do those things.
You
And
learn a lot from those guys.
but like, why do people do that and embellish? There's some punk I remember, with the inflatable beach toys. Oh yeah, he worked with Canada basketball, and he would like promote this, right? He would say he worked with Canada basketball, and if you go in his Instagram, there is a picture of him with Dylan Brooks and Jamal Murray, and they're like 14 years old, by the way, in this picture, and it's like, who the hell do you think you're talking about? Like you don't work, you're not on my staff. What a jerk, what a rotten human being. But why would he do that? Because when you have now an opportunity to fill up your whatever your emotional bag with something that you think other people are really going to get excited about, and I guess that's why they do it. You're better off asking them, because I'm okay if anybody wants to say I had a silver spoon in my mouth. I was in minor leagues while I was in physical therapy school, and I walked into the NBA at the age of 22. I think I don't. So it's not that cool to me. Yeah, I've been on private planes. I've done things that I think people would stereotype professional athletes, but I don't do them anymore because they're not cool anymore. And it's but you don't work in pro sports unless you get paid by the team. I don't work in pro sports right now. I have a significant amount of clients that are professional athletes, but I don't work in pro sports. That's ridiculous. Like unless you're on the team playing, you don't work in pro sports. You're a loser. You're somebody who is trying to describe a situation that other people probably don't know a lot about, so that it makes you look bigger and badder. Hey, and if that's your marketing strategy, I hope you make a lot of money from it. But you don't work in pro sports. You probably have that person has probably never worked in pro sports, if that's their form of communication.
No, it just seems to be like, because we were talking about how it seems to be pretty rampant, where like, you know, someone will meet somebody somewhere at an event, and then, oh, I worked with him because I met him at a conference.
That's like how many years did you work at the Jordan Classic?
One.
Oh, I thought it was more than that.
No.
But and I'm guessing at that one, you were there for, let's say, a week. You probably came across 50 A-list athletes, 40.
Yeah.
And I don't think you've ever talked about that. Now, it's only 1 year, whatever, but that you could run that game and be like, I worked with so-and-so, I worked with so-and-so, and I worked with so-and-so. And no one would ever know the difference. And
I don't feel the need to.
Well, so other people do. And I think that's just who they are, and really more about maybe who they're not. And if they feel that that's what they need to do, my definition, which is totally mine, like it doesn't matter if somebody agrees or disagrees, in my definition, you do not work in professional sports unless you have a paycheck from a professional sports team. I even said before, even getting into this topic, Canada basketball is not professional sports. It is elite sport. If you work with professional athletes, even if they're like, run of the mill practice level guys that barely get in the game, if you somehow work with them at your private clinic, I don't hear these guys saying they work in pro sports. It's obvious. Here's a fantastic coach in Huntsville, Alabama, named Andy McCloy, and he has dozens of University of Alabama and Auburn guys that go through there. And I don't hear him saying he works in professional sports, but he could probably show up to an NFL game and there'd be 6 guys between the two teams that he has actually worked with, probably from a very young age. And according to I think what you're describing, somebody like him would say, oh, I work with so-and-so, I work with so-and-so. Yeah, it's just the other thing too is I don't do a ton of work for free. And I feel that if I charge them, then the relationship is consummated and it's boxed. There is not a lot of, I think if I went on to continue to market those relationships, I don't think it's wrong. I kind of wish I did to a degree, because it's not really wrong. It just doesn't feel right to me. Here's one. Don. Everybody knows the celebrities that Don has worked with, and I will never be hesitant to say that even having the confidence to communicate here today is because of the opportunities that Don Saladino and his family have provided me when I came back from North Carolina to work at Drive. I am so in debt to him.
Met me too.
Yeah, that's all part of the deal, right? So Don is very public with the celebrities that he works with. Well, I've probably worked with 80% of them, but I don't push it. Yeah. And I don't work with them as much as he does. Because to train someone, you're with them on a 3, 4, 5 day a week basis to maybe get some things cleaned up is just not as much. But I typically charge them, or Don would pay me to work with them. And I just felt like it would be wrong to continue to monetize that when they're paying full price.
Right.
Now, I call me a hypocrite, but I also, we've seen some pictures with the celebrities or other folks, but there's also, I got, Josh Brolin was not from the gym. Josh Brolin was from our hairdresser or stylist. And
who does he play?
Thanos. and we took a picture together.
We're gonna use that for the cover, I think.
But that's Thanos. That's different. But but that's It's it's just not like, I don't think other people are wrong, especially if they're marketing it.
Yeah.
For the ones, I feel bad for the ones that you peg as they're so incomplete as people that they feel they need to. Now, more than anything, I feel bad for them, but they're not wrong. They can call. At what point is saying you work in professional sports like this hard definition? I'm just giving you my definition. My definition doesn't go anywhere further than right here. 52 inches. Like that's as far as it goes. There's no reason for anybody to get upset if they think that their definition of working in professional sports. But I'm pretty sure most people that have and do work in professional sports would agree with me, rather than just because you have some fly by night, fourth string doofus that is doesn't even do what you tell him to do. So that's
No, that I think that's insightful because I know there's people that have asked you about that on when you were asking questions about content and stuff. Because a lot of people want to understand what it's like to actually be in that world. So the people who know you actually work with those guys is because you don't really overly communicate about it, and you do drop hints like the big giant dude and whatnot. And how long have you been with him, by the way?
at some level since the second year, so that of his career. That's when I met him. So I'm guessing that's 2012. But I don't know. Hey, everybody's got their own.
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own way, and
Wait.
and I'll tell you a story. So where I did get a paycheck from the Miami Dolphins, and that was, I was there the whole year on multiple. I wasn't there the whole week. So there I got paid by multiple players and the team. And I had communication with the head coach, the GM, strength coach. I mean, that was my probably my most fun year in a professional sports setting was 2017 with the Dolphins. And we had two, they weren't interns, but we called them interns. They were the kids. There was two kids, and I'll leave his name out of it because I don't know that anyone ever wants to be part of my narratives. But he asked me. We went into the lunchroom and there was nobody in there. And if we're sitting like this, behind us is the practice field, which are all wall windows, probably 15, 20 feet high. And you look out from the lunchroom and you look at the practice field at Nova University, Miami Dolphins, they're getting a new practice facility, if not maybe next year. So he wanted to get my opinion and support for him to get a opportunity in pro soccer. He felt he was close, and it was the academy head strength coach. So it would have been for the kids. In soccer, they use a very different model than we use in most North American sport, where these kids basically declare professional at a very, very young age, and they work for the team. They have junior teams, etc. And I said, like, if that's what you want to do, then we will get this done. And indeed, I believe he's now in his third year at this organization. But again, I'm going to stutter a little bit because I don't want to say his name, because I just don't know that he wants to be a part of this. And I said, just make sure that you really want to do this. He's like, I said, look around. He's like, what do you mean? Like, look at where we are. We are in the Miami Dolphins practice facility. You see that field over there? People don't get to see that field. It's like blocked. Like, you can't see it. Like, you think of like where we are, and think of the shirts that we're wearing. The head equipment manager was named Charlie. I said, the only way we get these shirts is from Charlie, and don't do it for the t-shirt. Like, don't do it because we can be here and no one else can. Even during my time at MARSOC, to be behind the wire and open up a door that was a retired blade. Like, people don't get to do certain things when you work in professional sports. And I said, don't do it for the t-shirt, because the t-shirt is intoxicating. And what happened? I said, don't do it because you want to do this job and the environment fits where you're at in your life, and you can take this to something else, because the bottom line is you're not going to work there together. Every one of us here today, talking about where we are, at some point we're not going to work here. Players are going to move on, coaches are going to move on, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, just don't do it for the t-shirt, because when you have something that so few people have and that they would harm their grandmother to get, after a while, like you think you're the man because you're there, and everybody, like, I can't suck. This situation can't be that bad because there's 9,000 people that would cut their grandmother's legs off to get here. To me, I try to create the analogy that that's the t-shirt. Don't do it for the t-shirt, and do it because you think that's the right situation for you. Whereas these other folks that are so excited to talk about all the professional athletes that they work with, good or bad, hey, if it's for marketing, dude, marketing is nothing but lying and exaggeration, and that's totally cool. But I think they're doing it for the t-shirt, because working at that level inside the building, inside the wire, is so intoxicating, because everybody looks at you that you're special. Everybody looks at you like you're better, like that you're a better coach, you're a better therapist, when you're not. Like, there's nothing better about this. If you really want to be on a private plane, you can sign up for Wheels Up. Like, you can do this. Like, it's not, there's nothing. You could go onto Oma's and get on the sidelines of a field if you really, it is accessible to a degree, but it is not the place where the best coaches are, because after a while, when they're there for the t-shirt, they start to, believe that the poop in the room doesn't smell. And because think about it, if there's something if the garbage stinks, after a while, you're sitting in the room, it doesn't stink anymore. And you're quicker to believe that. And when so many people would just clamor to have those opportunities. But I don't think, as I sit here today, and I would say something different when I was 22 versus 40, whatever I am, 40. How old am I? 44 or 45? Yeah. It's it would have been better if I was 42, because that would have sounded better.
We can pretend.
It's not something that you should look up to. It's not something that you should think that just because somebody works in a certain place doesn't mean they're at the same level of the players or even the coaches. So it's not that cool.
Well, I think the last thing that people want to know about is Disney. So they know that you love it. We love it now. But I think they want to really understand it. And I know why you love it, but I don't know if they know why you love it. So can you give them a little bit of the insight as to what appeals to you so much, and when did it all start and why?
When did it start? Well, I don't.
Well, you went when you were a kid, right? Your mom
Yeah,
said
but
basically-
it wasn't like I went like 10 times a year like now.
Except for this year where you've gone I've gone once, you've gone twice.
3 times, but
Okay.
So I don't know what year it was, but I went with Joe P and his wife, and it was a wrap. Like, but I remember preparing for that trip, and it was like, I think we did like 4 or 5 days, and that's intoxicating to prepare. Like, to me, it is, and a lot of Disney fans, like Disney parks fans, will agree that one of the best parts is actually creating an itinerary. Now, you don't have to create an itinerary, and as much as we go, sometimes it's cool to not have an itinerary because we go so much, so we're not being pinched. Now, that takes a unique level. It's for locals or et cetera, the amount of volume that you have to consume to feel good with that. Because if you're flying and you're paying for a hotel and you're paying for your tickets, you got to get a lot done. And it's so much fun to organize, what you're going to do and how you're going to manage your fast passes and where you're going to eat and when you're going to go on this ride and when you're going to do this. That's a lot of fun, like organizing things and then executing, because your best laid plan is never going to happen. And then we made up this term called the Disney efficiency rating. And it's like, how efficient are you in executing your plan? And I think, well, you screwed it up. It might have been the absolute most efficient ever was a couple years ago when we went to Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, and because you were sick or I don't know what your problem was, but like we were like it was unbelievable how we nailed everything.
Mm-hmm.
And if you weren't such a punk and was willing to see the parade at like 11 instead of the first parade, we would have been like 95%. It would have been unbelievable. That was when Sneezy sneezed on me, which is just one of the most amazing Disney moments ever. And where that was the final chance that Skipper's Canteen is going to get, because that place just is supposed to.
The restaurant, yes.
So the organization of it. So but really, I would typically when people do ask me this, there's two things that are very appealing to Disney. One, people will understand. The other one would probably, oh, okay, I get it now. And usually the second thing that I'll say, a lot of the most skeptical people, they're like, oh, I get it now. I understand. And most of the time as an adult, if they get exposed to the type of experience that I'm describing, they also will be like, okay, I get it now. Number one, you get to act however you want. And that's like the coolest thing. Like you can be silly where you're almost expected to be silly. You can wear crazy things and you can go skipping and you can,
We've done that.
yeah. And it's just, you could do, within reason. Now, I obviously conduct myself in most situations because I don't want people to think I'm so intimidating. I conduct myself in a fairly juvenile manner, but there it's on another level where you're expected to act.
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun if that's who you are. Now, there are some people that just can't bring themselves to act in that way. It doesn't float their boat. But the other thing is, and I really started to craft verbiage around this when I watched on Netflix. You can find it. Look up Masters of the Universe, as in He-Man. And it's not about He-Man as much as it about what is it that makes adults have this affinity to collecting things from cartoons or toys. So if you can maybe see over there all the mug. Yeah. So look, on the
Toys.
top you have some magic bands. You've got the NWO spray painted championship. That's a pair of sneakers that are from Snow White.
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
gave those to you.
Yeah. What else do we have? You have some mugs because I collect Disney mugs. So why do we do all these things? And in that Masters of the Universe documentary on Netflix, it was about describing hobbies and why do people do this? So they feel companionship and camaraderie with others that like the same things. So when you go to Disney, you're not just collecting Disney mugs or like how people collect pins or different ears and etc. I also have a fairly significant collection of T-shirts. You're collecting experiences, and I think a lot of the life or business mentors that I have been most moved by are like, spend your money on experiences. Yeah, you got to have a nice house. Yeah, but don't spend your money on things. Spend your money on experiences. And at Disney, when you go, you have the opportunity to have dozens and dozens of amazing, unique experiences, such as getting that cupcake from that stand that you can only get from February 10th through February 16th because it's their Valentine's Day one. Like, and then you can tell other people that, like, yeah, I got it. Oh, you got it. How was it? And then, oh my God, I got to go next year to get it. To collect experiences is, where we were talking to one of my friends' dad, and I'm very close friends with her parents, and him, something that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. He and his wife every summer go to a new baseball stadium. Are they really going to see a baseball game that you can see around here? You've got Mets, Yankees, even Phillies. You can get, if you really wanted to go to see the Sox, you have driving distance, but they want to be able to, close it up one day and be like, we have been to every stadium in Major League Baseball. They're collecting experiences. They're not going to see baseball games. They're doing that so that they can talk about it with each other, and then maybe talk about it with other people. And you kind of see like the affect of message boards and even stuff that is related to training. The problem is that people identify at a religious level their training. In Disney, if you'll find that, you know, there's people that hate a certain thing, they love it because it's so driven by emotion, and it's actually probably a concept that I try to apply to a lot of things in life, collecting experiences. So most people, when they hear that and they hear it fairly well articulated, I don't know, is oh, okay, I get it. And I don't know too many people that have especially gone or experienced it with me or us. They usually say, "Oh, I get it
Yeah.
now. I get it now." And look, there's a significant amount of adult experiences at Disney to begin with. Alcohol flows like the water of Capistrano Valley. You'll pay a good 175% for your drink, but it's the and I also think it's why you see certain groups of people, uh, like I can, yeah, whatever, like it's a very safe place for people, and that's why you see a significant a gay community now, which Orlando is known for that community. And it's really cool because, you know, these are probably certain types of folks that maybe you wouldn't always cross with, but when you're at Disney, you cross with them. And it's very special sometimes to be exposed to people in a very safe, common place. And if you didn't have Disney in common with them, you might not experience them as much. And I think this adds to such a lot of positive things beyond just decent human behavior and tolerance. But it's a cool thing. It's there. There's a and then of course there's also this business culture where you can go to like Disney school to learn how they do business and how they attempt to value people and how they attempt to package their services. So now if you have that and you have the things that I'm talking about, which is their product, that's why Disney is what it is.
I think, like, I don't know if it is but one of the most epic experiences we've had at Disney.
Which one?
The anniversary of it is tomorrow.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
What happened there 2 years ago?
That's
or was it 3 years ago now?
Is it 3?
No, 2018.
So that's where I proposed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it's way too long a story, I think, at this point. How long have we been going?
A long time.
I had the ring.
Hour 24.
I had the ring, and I knew I wanted to propose over the New Year's because we were there partying with another one of my best friends, Frank, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And another day, another time, or if you've, I'm sure it's on some podcast somewhere where I described the entire scenario of you know of my plan, of how the plan unfolded,
the non-planned plan.
What the bottom line is that I had the ring. I had no idea how I was going to propose. And the story is for the ages because there was a series of events that if one thing didn't happen, the next thing wouldn't have happened, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it turned out pretty cool.
I think so too. And everyone else knew except me.
To a point. To a point.
And the first question I asked you was, where did you hide it?
What do you mean? When did
after you would propose? You know what we should do? We should play the video for everybody.
Which video?
The proposal video. It's never been released to public. We should release it tomorrow.
What are you talking about? It's not been released. They released it.
No.
You probably posted it like the next day.
No. We decided not to. We posted the photo.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Because after
you're posting all these pictures of me when I was little, and
funny. Really funny.
I'm surprised you didn't post it. But yeah, go ahead.
Anyway. And so right after I said yes, and then you hugged me and I said, where did you hide it? Because we were there already like 3 or 4 days sharing a room in in a moderate resort, which meant that very little space.
It's not tiny.
And so, but you he dropped all these hints, like the backpack he put it in. He kept telling me, I'm using a different backpack. I'm using a different backpack. I'm like, I don't care. Why are you telling me this? You know,
it had a
he
secret.
does
It had this extra little compartment inside. Like when the backpack was all closed up, there was a pocket inside. So in my mind, that was less of an opportunity for me to lose it if I got bumped around or anything.
But you left it in the room too, and the maids didn't even like do anything. Or
Hey,
you
if I,
trusted
well,
them.
well,
You had a safe, but you couldn't put it in. 'cause
part
I
of the
would've
story
seen
is
it.
because this room was, so it had the sink area
Yeah, with the safe.
without, yeah, like the safe was like right there, but there was no door. Obviously there was a door to the whatever room that had the toilet and the shower. So if I were to use there'd be no way that I would be able to use the safe without you seeing me,
Right.
unless you were asleep. So maybe I could have put it in there while you were asleep, but then I would never be able to get it out without you knowing.
Yeah.
So I just left it in my backpack. And thank you for the nice ladies at Mousekeeping that did not go through my Canada basketball backpack to steal the ring.
Yes.
Hey, worked out.
Happy engagement anniversary almost.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. All right. We'll talk to that.
Okay.
All right.
No, they want to see the soft side. Yes, teddy bear.
There is no soft side. That's the thing.
He's a teddy bear.
It's
No,
just people judge.
No, Toronto, no. Say goodbye. Thank you guys. Thanks, Charlie, for being on tonight. I love you.
You're okay.
Okay. Bye.